What is up, everybody? My name is Famous and welcome to another episode of Pokemon Go. In today's episode, we are going to be taking a look at the top 10 most exciting Pokemon in Pokemon Go for Generation 4. This is a list that I came up with myself, so it is going to be my own personal opinion. But before we get into the list, I did want to go ahead and announce that I did start a second channel. It's going to be posting non-Pokemon Go content, so if you would like to check that out, I will have a link in the description. But without further ado, let's get into the episode. The order of these Pokemon is going to be by CP. It's not going to be by my favorite or anything like that, so let's go ahead and get into it. At the number 10 spot, we have Gallade with a max CP of 2,964. Gallade is a dual-type Pokemon of Psychic and then also Fighting type. Let's go ahead and learn a little bit more about Gallade. So the way that I think Niantic is going to implement the evolution is they're going to probably scrap the evolution item, and it's going to be as simple as if Kirlia is a female, it will evolve into a Gardevoir. If Kirlia is a male, it will evolve into a Gallade. Having some type of evolution item for just one gender and not the other, I think is something that Niantic is definitely trying to get away from. Let's go ahead and cover something pretty interesting about Gallade. When we're talking about the stats, its attack stat, check that out at 237, so why would that be significant? Well, I'll go ahead and tell you a really good example. If you take a look at Machamp, so Machamp's attack stat is only 234. With Gallade having a 237, that technically means that Gallade would have a higher attack stat from a fighting type perspective. But at the end of the day, it will come down to a moveset, but we could theoretically have a new fighting type champion. Let's go ahead and move into the number 9 spot. We have Rampardos with a max CP of 3,179. Rampardos is a pure rock type Pokemon. So don't let that CP fool you. It does kind of act like a glass cannon in some ways. You may think of a similar Pokemon such as Sharpedo, but I do think that Rampardos is going to be able to act at least a little bit better. When we take a look at the stats, we've got an HP of 194, an attack stat of 295, and then the defense stat of 114. So from a CP perspective, the attack stat is definitely carrying the load. And it's only 5 short of Mewtwo in at 300, and then it's going to also be able to outdo Tyranitar from an attack stat perspective. Does that mean it will actually be able to outperform? Well, it really just depends on how much of a glass cannon Rampardos actually acts. But we actually could have a similar Pokemon or potentially pass Tyranitar when Generation 4 comes out. Let's go ahead and move on to the number 8 spot. We have Mamoswine with a max CP of 3,289. Mamoswine is a dual-type Pokemon of Ice and then also Ground type. So Mamoswine evolves from Piloswine, and I'm going to go ahead and talk a little bit about why I am personally excited about Mamoswine. So when we take a look at the stats, we've got an HP of 220. We have an attack stat of 247 and then a defense stat of 157. So when we're talking about Mamoswine, from an attack stat perspective, it actually has a higher attack stat than Articuno and even Jinx. So this could become the best Ice-type attacker. Typically, Ice-type favors the defensive side, but Mamoswine's kind of the flip of that. So as long as we get a good Ice-type moveset, you could see a new Ice-type champion. Coming in at the number 7 spot, we have Darkrai with a max CP of 3,404. Darkrai is a pure dark type Pokemon. Although it does have a ghost-like appearance, it is a strict dark type Pokemon. Let's go ahead and take a look at the stats. Once again, you may be seeing a common theme throughout this list, and that's going to be some incredible attack stats. So that's only 15 short of Mewtwo's. When we're talking about something cool about Darkrai, from a dark type perspective, the pool is a little bit thin for dark type, and this could help beef it up. It has a higher attack stat than Tyranitar, so this is going to be a mythical Pokemon that I am very excited to see put into the game. Coming in at the number 6 spot, we have Garchomp with a max CP of 3,823. Garchomp is a dual-type Pokemon of Dragon and then also Ground type. So this Pokemon looks incredible from a model perspective, but it also has the stats to back it up. Let's go ahead and take a look at this pretty much well-rounded Pokemon. We have an HP stat of 216, an attack stat of 261, and then a defense stat of 198. So this Pokemon will probably perform similar to Dragonite from a dragon perspective, but at least with it being a dual typing, it does have multiple options. I'm just hoping that this Pokemon doesn't have all of these great stats go to waste just because of a poor moveset. Let's go ahead and move in to the number 5 spot. We have Rhyperior with a max CP of 3,869. Rhyperior is a dual-type Pokemon of ground and then also rock-type. So Rhyperior evolves from Rhydon. And also, let's take a look at the stats. This is going to be by far one of the most well-rounded Pokemon that we have seen on this list. HP stat of 230, attack stat of 241, and then a defense stat of 224. When we're talking about Rhyperior, honestly, it could dominate from the ground and then also the rock perspective, or at least being in the top 3 to 4 from both ranges. As you can imagine, with Rhydon actually being fairly decent already, to have a souped up version of it, as long as it doesn't get a bad moveset, you're going to see Rhyperior become immediately relevant in the meta. Let's go ahead and move into the number 4 spot. We have Giratina with a max CP of 3,965. Giratina is a dual-type Pokemon of Ghost and then also Dragon-type. So definitely going to be an interesting typing. I also have something else to mention as well, and that's going to be the Origin version. So Giratina actually has an Origin version that's going to have a little bit different stats, but we're not exactly sure how Pokemon Go is going to implement this or if it even will. But beyond that, let's go ahead and take a look at the stats. For Giratina, check out that HP stat of 300, an attack stat of 206, and then a defense stat of 247. So basically, this tends to act more like a tank, but that's usually not something that you see from the Ghost type perspective. So this Pokemon is definitely going to be interesting from that. So it doesn't have as much use from a Dragon type perspective, but like I said, with it being one of the few Ghost type tanks, it could service as an anchor from a Ghost type perspective and is definitely going to be an exciting addition to the game. So let's go ahead and move into the top 3. In at the 3 spot, we have Palkia with a max CP of 4,559. Palkia is a dual type Pokemon of water and then also dragon type. So Palkia is a part of the creation trio along with Giratina and then another Pokemon that we will see later on the list. But when we're talking about Palkia, let's go ahead and take a look at the stats. We've got an HP stat of 180, so that's pretty much mediocre. But where it comes into play is going to be the attack stat of 308, which means at this point it would be higher than Mewtwo. But it is very likely that there will be a nerf, unfortunately. And then a defense stat that's actually pretty solid as well. So with Palkia having a higher attack stat than Mewtwo, that's absolutely insane. Hopefully it won't get nerfed, but it could actually be effective from a water and then also dragon type. Once again, it's going to kind of matter how the moveset falls, but I'm hoping that Niantic doesn't nerf it too bad. So let's go ahead and move into the number 2 spot. This is going to be the godlike Pokemon itself, and that is Arceus with a max CP of 4,598. Arceus is a pure normal type Pokemon. So this is one of those cases where you might be asking yourself, well, if Arceus is the creator of all, especially the creation trio, how could this Pokemon not be in the number 1 spot? Well, we've actually seen something like this as well between Rayquaza, Kyogre, and then Groudon. Because of the way it worked, Rayquaza ended up getting nerfed to the point where it was actually below Kyogre and Groudon, even though it's supposed to control the two. We're unfortunately seeing something similar with Arceus, but at the end of the day, we can't really predict that until Niantic nerfs all of the Pokemon pretty much. Maybe Arceus doesn't get as big of a nerf, so then the number 1 spot falls below it. I don't know, we're going to have to see. But let's go ahead and take a look at the stats. Once again, a very, very, very well-rounded Pokemon. This is a Pokemon that's going to also have a lot of usability from the plates. If you check out the Pokemon model, it does have something around it. And that's because with a plate, you would be able to dictate what type of Pokemon Arceus would be. So maybe there's a certain type of Pokemon that doesn't really have a lot of depth. Maybe it's something like Ice, maybe it's something like Poison. Arceus would be able to wear that plate and then act as that type of Pokemon. Hopefully it's a fairly big moveset so you could get a double stab along with it as well. But this is going to be a Pokemon that is going to have a lot of usability and be a very exciting addition to the game. So let's go ahead and get into the number 1 spot. We have the third and final slot of the Creation Trio, and that is Dialga with a max CP of 4,654. Dialga is a dual-type Pokemon of Steel and then also Dragon-type. Let's go ahead and take a look at the stats. Its stats: HP 200, Attack 302, so once again higher than Mewtwo, and then the defense status at 242. So this Pokemon has massive potential, but I'm worried about the Steel type in Pokemon Go. If this Pokemon ends up with stats like this and a moveset that disappoints, it will be such a waste of CP. We've actually seen something like this before with Ho-Oh getting a terrible moveset and then basically rendering it useless, although it does have incredible stats. I'm hoping that it doesn't happen in Generation 4. But anyways, I hope you did enjoy this video. If you did, be sure to slap a like on it and subscribe. I do have a question of the day for you. Which Pokemon on this list do you like the most, that you're looking most forward to having in the game? Be sure to put it in the comments section below, and I will see you next time.
Hit me like a tidal wave. Triggered by the aftershock. Hit me like